7.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Jeff Dudas from underwatertimes.com.
With all the stories from around the oceans and waterways around the world, Jeff Dudas joining us from Miami today. Hello to you, Jeff.
How you doing, Wammo?
I'm very well, thanks. First up today, a story close to home, that is New Zealand being home, of course.
I was wondering if you heard about this one, where the octopus stole a diver's camera and took off and kept on filming.
Well, I'd heard that there was a film doing the rounds on YouTube at the moment about this.
Yeah, it was a big story, made it all over the world. This diver, Victor Wang, was underwater filming an octopus, and the octopus started approaching him and started grabbing at him, and he started heading to the surface, and the octopus stole his camera. And it was a video camera, so it was recorded the octopus stealing his camera, and he started chasing after this octopus, and this went on for like 5 minutes. He was trying to grab this octopus, and it wouldn't stop, wouldn't let go.
Yeah.
Finally caught up to him and stuck out his spear. He had a spear gun, and the octopus grabbed onto the spear gun and sort of distracted him. He dropped off the video camera, but then he had a problem. The octopus wouldn't let go of his spear gun. So sort of one problem after another. Eventually, the octopus gave up and let go, and he got back his camera. And sure enough, this guy posted this video on YouTube, so you can actually see this whole thing going down, including sort of the octopus taking some film too.
Are you aware of any other stories similar to this at all, where octopuses take equipment off people?
There's quite a few stories of there's these giant Pacific octopus I know in the U.S. and the Pacific Northwest, where these, I think they can get about 8 foot long, and they'll come up to you and put their arms all over you and maybe try to take your regulator out of your mouth. It depends. I don't know if it's quite an attack, but it's definitely, they can be quite intimidating. One thing about octopus, they have these large suckers and these suction discs that are quite sharp, but they usually don't have much stamina, so they can, for a short time, they can be very powerful, but then after a while they tire out. Especially if they're in cold water, and they'll sort of go away. It's
interesting that they're attracted to objects like this as opposed to food. I mean, they'll know that a camera wasn't food.
Well, yeah, they're very curious. I mean, there's all sort of stories about octopus escaping and doing all sort of strange things in captivity. So if they see something strange or sort of out of the ordinary, they'll definitely come investigate.
Oh, interesting. Well, on to something a little bit scary, really. Screaming tadpoles.
Yeah, it's a world first in the 200 years of studying amphibian larvae. Never been recorded that they can make a sound. And some researchers were out studying tadpoles and frogs in South America, and they were messing around with this one, the horned frog, the Ceratophrys ornata, which is again in the jungles of South America, and they were collecting little larvae, and they had this net, and they scooped out some larvae, and they started hearing this noise, this sort of sharp metallic sound. They couldn't figure out what it was, totally unexpected, and they figured out it was the larvae screaming.
Wow!
And never suspected. They was totally surprised because it had never been recorded that they can make a sound, more or less sort of a scream. So they started trying to figure out what was going on, and they would poke them, and sure enough, they would scream. They would pull them out of the water, and they would scream even more, and they figured out that they're actually emitting sound out of their lungs, and in the air they can actually make a louder scream. And the scream, just very, very short, it's 5 1/100ths of a second, and they're trying to figure out why it would do this, and this frog is carnivorous and actually highly aggressive, and it'll eat other larvae. So they thought that its own larvae scream so they won't get eaten by maybe the adults.
Has anyone managed to make a recording of this? Love to hear it myself.
I believe there is. I mean, there's a link to the story, and there's actually, I've seen some sort of vocalizations how they're recorded. So it's just, they say it's a sort of a sharp metallic sound.
And so it's obviously a distress scream as well.
Yes. So that's what they say. When they would, the way scientists prod, and they were poking them with the metallic spatula, and they would scream. Take them out of the water, they would scream. And evidently net them. They figured out they would scream.
Surely that's some kind of torture, Jeff.
You would think, but it's just scientists in the jungle, and they run across something like this and they sort of go crazy.
Well, I suppose you would poke it for a little bit, wouldn't you?
But again, this is the first time ever, so these guys are pretty excited, and what they're going to go off next is sort of poke around other aquatic larvae, because no one ever thought to do this. So now they're going to do it to sort of all sort of aquatic larvae, see if they can get the other ones to scream too.
Well, from something quite tiny to something very large, whales that actually make gestures towards each other. Yeah,
these are Australian scientists were out studying whales and the noise they make, and there's a big field of study now with all the boats in the ocean and seismic testing is how whales communicate. And they figured out that the sound of waves, sort of wind-blown waves, makes the same frequency as the normal whale vocalizations. And they started studying this, when it's especially windy, especially a lot of waves. And they figured out they're at the surface more, and they slap around their tails and they slap their fins more. And they're saying this is a more cruder form of communication. It's like at a party. It's real loud, noisy. You start gesturing. They say the whales are doing the same sort of thing in their own way.
You do hear that from sailors, don't you, that in extremely windy conditions, that the ocean kind of does scream.
Yeah, well, a scream, and evidently the whales can't really talk to each other. So yeah, they're figuring out another way to talk to each other, make even louder noises than normal. But this scientist said, again, the same sort of way, she's going to try to drive her noisy boat next to the whales and see if they go to the surface and start slapping around and slapping their tails more.
Yeah, or they slap her around as well. Could be that.
I kind of wonder, but yeah. So.
Stop making that racket, damn it. Yet again, if they had opposable thumbs, they'd be ruling the world.
There you go.
They'd be taken over.
Yep.
Jeff, those stories you'll find at underwatertimes.com. Thanks so much for telling us all about it.
Thanks for having me.
Jeff Dudas there, joining us from Miami. Time now on the Kiwi is 24 minutes past 7. Got to track